Hey, Kristian.
Hey, Kristian. Hello.
Hey, so just real quick, so and I don't know if Susan let you know or not, there was mishap on our end over here, and Bibbs and the kid weren't aware of the time right now, so it's going to be, you guys get me. I'm sorry. So we'll anything that you have for me or anything particular for those guys, I can try to answer, but just to give a heads up.
Okay, great,
Okay.
great. So let's start the first round. And the first question is going to come from Megan from Call to Action.
Right. So given the free-for-all coming up this weekend, is there any comment on any word on what Oyama is going to do with his title shot?
I mean, that's an Oyama question. He's got until we say, then let's get ready to Schmoedown. When the free for all starts, he can cash it in. But after that, it's expired, and the new winner will then start to start their reign, or maybe it's Oyama again, and then Oyama can start another reign that maybe he will let expire, or maybe he'll choose to use it. It's really up to him. But yeah, the clock's running out.
Great. Next question will be from Luke at Galaxy Geeks.
So my question is, we've had Titans so far, and you've got new Titans that's coming up week. On a creative side, what's been your most exciting thing about Titans?
I like it that it's kind of serialized television. It's to me, it's more fun as a fan to follow the characters, follow the matches, follow everything that's been going on with it, and the way that to look at it creatively of how it all starts out, and then there's still people that you haven't seen that are like massive stars that wait until you do, and how they're gonna, it's like, I think about it like any other television show, like when you're just waiting for a particular character to show up, and when they do, they just kind of either cause havoc or save the day. And that's kind of what we're excited about, the introduction of new people and how we can incorporate them into this circus. So I think all of that is pretty exciting.
Great. Next question is from Tim from The Insight.
Hello, Kristian.
Good.
All right. So with this free for all now being finally back in person, I'm certain there's gonna be a lot of excitement, especially with just having everyone back in the same room and doing the free for all, and of course how exciting it would be, and of course with this season being more towards sports entertainment, as you've said earlier. So I'm just kind of wondering if it's gonna be like WWE's Royal Rumble, where they're gonna have some legends and Hall of Famer caliber players come to make cameos and appear in the game. I mean, would we expect something similar to that? And like how often compared to the contenders that could come in and try their best to win the game?
Well, I mean, it's going to be significantly different than like last year, right? Because last year, one of the things that there's just nothing you could do with it, with the faction system, is that each faction had 4 or 5 players, whatever it was, and you could pretty much guess. There wasn't much room to guess who would show up, because it's someone going to be on the roster. That's not the case this year. That's you never know who could show up. You never know. Maybe there's some people that you haven't seen yet this season, and maybe they're still on the roster, but you just haven't seen them. Maybe they show up. Maybe there are people that you didn't expect. Maybe there's some there's fun twist. Anything can happen in this year's free for all. So that to me is the most exciting part of it. So yeah, I'm excited that's back, and of course you'll see some similarities for sure.
Thank you.
Great. Next question is from Let's Get Ready Network, Dagan.
Hey, Kristian. Wanted to ask again, kind of related to the Oyama cash in again. In the past, we've seen Merle cash in, but the match takes place after the free for all. So does the match have to take place before free for all, or can he announce that maybe he's cashing in on Titans the one that takes place after the free for all? Is there a rule about that?
I see what you're saying. So you're basically saying that, like, so Merle cashed in at the New York event or whatever event it was at the end of it, and then challenged for Orlando, right?
Right.
Well, he also had a window, leading. He still got to do it before. So I mean, sure, if Oyama decides that this Friday on Titans he wants to say, hey, I want to challenge so and so or whatever for a championship shot, and I want to do it tomorrow at the free for all, right? It has to happen right before the free for all starts. Anything after the free for all, that first question of the free for all, it's expired.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Great. And the next question will be from Keith, This Week in the Schmoedown.
Hi Christian, thanks very much for your time. Suppose this Friday's title match between Shazam and Corruption, it's effectively the most dominant team in the post-Patriots era, taking on a side who are not only desperate to win to stay together, but to not cause any more upheaval within their faction. So with all being said, where do you see the winning and losing of this match going?
Who do I think is going to win?
Where do you see winning and losing on both sides?
Oh man, that's a tough one for me. I've tried to stay away from predictions for a lot of these things too, for a lot of different reasons. But I think that you're 100% where there's a lot on the line for both teams. Even though Shazam is a dominant team, they're approaching legacy. Should they win this match, they're 4 title defenses then, and then they'll have 2 to catch the Patriots. And you look at what they've done in general, how many they've won in a row, and so yeah, of course. I mean, they've defended the title enough that they'd get an automatic rematch for sure, and that would set up another match between Corruption and Shazam, which is certainly possible. But there's no doubt that Corruption is the one who's playing with their back against the wall right now, and they're a dangerous team. Remember what I think that if you look at all of Shazam's matches, minus obviously even the Odd Couple loss, I would say that Corruption has really played them the toughest. And I think that Chance, even though he's lost to Bibbs, he hangs with Bibbs and he almost beat him both times they played in singles and just missed that 5. That's been Chance's curse. But I think that I think Corruption can definitely win this match. I think they can definitely win it, and I think Shazam is aware of it. So the answer is I could see it going either way, because this is a dominant team or not. Even look at a team like the Patriots. Patriots didn't have easy victories. They had to fight to get to that 6, and Shazam certainly has proven that they're willing to fight to try to get there.
Next question from Mike Shea, the Ultimate Schmoedown After Show.
Hey, Christian, thanks for your time today. Just wanted to ask from a behind the scenes production standpoint, what kind of could you walk us through kind of the thought process behind deciding to make this like a 2-day thing with the Titans and the free for all? Why not have it just be like one night for both, or one night just for the free for all?
Well, we wanted to make sure that the thing that we decided that when it came to Patreon overall, Patreon's been Patreon is like, honestly, you guys know, we've said it many times over, without the support of Patreon, there's not very much longer the show will last. And we wanted to make sure that with Patreon, that the audience was satisfied with what they were getting. And what we were doing is we would take, and I've also mentioned this many times over, is that how it works in any business is that, especially when you have a year plan of a full season, you have a budget, you got to stay within that budget. And the idea with the production team was, well, we'll do 3 Titans, and then we'll do one of the Titans as a pay-per-view. And then what we realized is that, not even realizing, after listening to the audience that wanted a little bit more, that's when we decided to make the Star Wars division Patreon exclusive, to make sure that they had something great there. But in order to do that, we were like, okay, well, then we should just keep Titans. Titans should be our Friday show. It's public. It's always public. And then we're going to have a few. What we're going to do is we have our special, as you guys know, Free for All is in March. That's a big pay-per-view. The Collision is always a big one that we have, and we have the Spectacular, and and you guys may or may not be aware of this. It went out with a blast, but we're also going to be doing a 4th one, which is going to be another kind of big pay-per-view, which we'll probably have, like, instead of where Spectacular has 5 matches, Collision has 4. This one, no name yet, we'll probably have 3 matches inside of it, and we'll be like we're looking at like September, October for that one. So if you go back and look at kind of old school wrestling, whether it was WWF at the time or WCW or any of these two, when they were starting out, their pay-per-views they weren't every month. They were probably every 2, 3, 4 months. And that's what we're going to start doing. And we hope that, because when we started Patreon, by the way, too, we didn't have a lot of these massive tiers. People were joining to help support the show. And that's what we hope to get back to, because this is we're doing a big season, and we want to make sure that we give everybody the bang for their buck. So that's why you're getting both Titans on Friday, and then leads into free for all the next day.
Great. Okay, we finished round 1. We're going to start round 2 now, and possibly do 2 rounds of questions after this. So round 2 and round 3. So next, call to action. You are up with the next question.
Okay, thank you. So going back to the Corruption Shazam title match, what is it about Corruption as a team, either as individuals or as a whole, that has allowed them to stay at that elite level, in your thought, as being the only team that's still around that was established in Anarchy back in 2018?
It's a great question. I think it's certainly the relationship that Mike and Chance have, because the addition of Shannon working with them really from 2000 on, even though she was very much involved from just being with Mike, they have a very good relationship, the three of them, and they work together very well, and that's very important, and they trust in each other, and they know Mike knows his strengths, and he knows Chance's strengths, and he knows his weaknesses, and he knows they just know each other very well, and that's what a good partnership does. And they know, and Chance doesn't get enough credit with how much of a team player he is, not just in Corruption, but in all of the Schmoedown. He's a very, he just kind of, what do you need me to do? What at this point, I'll do it. Like, he never argues, does what's best for the show. He does what's best for his team. He's just that type of guy. And I think that when you lend that with Mike's kind of boorishness, and the way that he can just command a room when he walks in, it lends themselves to this great dynamic that they've had. So I think they just, and they have that swagger, when they walk into a room and they play, and they've played the role for a long time. So that's why they've become such a legendary team.
Great. Next question is from Luke from Galaxy Geeks.
Question is, so you were bringing Star Wars to the Patreon, which I think is awesome, and I'm super excited. Could we see, since Star Wars is going to the Patreon, could we create divisions like the Star Wars for Patreon exclusive? It would be online, like a Marvel division or a Harry Potter division, or just special divisions that could play not just exhibition, but like actual divisions.
Yeah, and I don't mean to keep repeating myself, but it's just right now, no, because it's just not in the budget. When, like, if people really want to see the Star Wars division, they want to, and the show, the Patreon picks up, and it turns out to be more lucrative that we can do it, then that's ultimately what people are paying for, right? They're paying to create more divisions. They're paying to create more content. So until that happens, no. But it's definitely a great idea when we get the bandwidth to do it with the crew. Then yeah, for sure.
Next question, Tim from The Insight.
Okay, so this next question is regarding the third match between Shazam and the Corruption. So for the first team style match of the season, it was kind of interesting how the initial reactions were, but I was kind of curious. So at that time when you made the decision to make this team style match happen, was it because there was not many other teams in the division that would be ready to go up against Shazam, or is it just or the new teams that were being made were just still in the early phases to try to build all that chemistry work together, and probably not that at that level to face up something like Shazam?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Tim, you answered all your questions correctly. So it's exactly what it was. There was nobody available at all. So we put that into the storyline, make sure that that's how we told people about it. And to put this is why it's silly for people. I saw some people online saying, why don't you put ruling class in there or put movement? Those are the question that Meg's just asked. Those teams haven't formed that bond yet. They're going to go up against Shazam. That's not fair. After they're 1-0 or they're 0-0 and they're going to play Shazam. That's like, how fun is that for an audience? He's pretty much just saying, okay, now Shazam's just going to beat up on a new team but they're two good trivia players. That's not how it works. You gotta have that chemistry. You gotta learn each other's rhythms. So the idea was supposed to be King Arthur versus Shazam, and the other major reason why is because if we built out a couple contenders in order to get there, Shazam wouldn't be defending the championships until June. So you wouldn't see Shazam play until June, and that's not fair to them. They want to try to beat the record. So if that means June, and then maybe after that, then you get maybe September, and then so they're only looking at maybe 3 title matches for the year. That sucks. So we'd much rather have them go up against a team that you put a stipulation in there, and then that's why it's worth it. And I mean, it's a 2-time championship team that they're going up against. It's not like just 2 random people. Sure, could they have played a number 1 contender match? Yeah, and would I have liked them? Sure, but it didn't happen. So you're getting a championship match. Deal with it.
Yeah. And also, so assuming that if corruption loses the
Then-
match and our
Then
first,
we only have to do 1 question per person, so you
Okay.
have to ask that in the next round.
that's the next time. Right. Thank you.
Next question is from Dagan at Let's Get Ready Network.
We got the free for all coming up this weekend. It's probably my favorite event that the Schmoedown puts on. It's similar to WWE. I
Yeah.
love the Royal Rumble. And with that in mind, if I were to try to get somebody to buy this pay-per-view on Saturday, what do you think is the quintessential free for all moment to show a new viewer to try to get them to buy the show?
You know that as well as I do. That's you throw in the Mark Andreyko moment. You got to show them that moment. I mean, it depends on who you're showing, right? If you're showing a trivia fan, I would show them that moment, but as a hardcore fan like yourself, say, okay, what you have to understand is that right there, that guy in the cowboy hat, that's the reigning champion at the time. That guy there is the best guy that ever played. That guy there is a trivia beast and soon to be team's champion. And that guy there is the champion right now, who's a dominant champion. And now watch what this guy does. And so if you set that moment up, just like a trivia side, you don't have to worry about like the storyline aspect of it, that moment. If not, if it's a wrestling fan, I show them the Andrew Guy moment. And what I would show them though is the reaction at the bar that Late to the Party did for the free for all, when there was like a ton of people outside watching, and then you see Andrew come popping through the curtain, and then there's one particular dude, he's like so excited because he hears Merle's music, and he sees this guy and he goes, no, and like, to me, that's an incredible kind of wrestling moment. So those are the 2 that I would show.
Love it. Thanks.
Great. Next question is going to be from Keith this week in the Schmoedown.
Christian, a quick production question for you. Has there been any conversations or consideration about having more than 2 commentators on the desk for big events? I remember back to, I think it was Free for All 2, was yourself, Jen, and Ken at one stage on the desk. And I believe Brad joined yourself and Mark in Houston for the Action Army Civil War.
It's so we were shooting at a studio for the first 3 tapings that we were renting out. Starting in May, we have our own official studio that's Skybound. It's Skybound Studio. So the reason why 3 wasn't even a thought was because it was just too hard to do in that particular studio. I considered 3 for the free for all, but we were still at that studio when we were doing it. So this is something that is not out of the realm. I mean, Thad probably doesn't want to do it, and I understand why. It's just a little, it's extra with all the stuff that his team is working on right now. It's one more extra thing. It's not outside the realm of possibility. It's just not anything that's needed at the moment. Plus, to try to bounce the question. That's why I've stepped back from the desk as much too, to give more people an opportunity to build them. That's why Rachel's been doing more, Andrew's been doing more, Ken's doing more. And then when Brad's in town, Brad will do more. And then we're going to try to start to get Steph on there a little bit more as well. So we're working on it.
Thank you.
Great. Next question is going to be from Mike Shea from the Ultimate Schmoedown After Show.
We've had we still got a lot of teams and players returning from previous seasons, along with a lot of the new ones we've had. Has there been any particular team or player that has shown you just that you think has had the most improvement from last year, or maybe a new one that has exceeded your expectations for this year?
I think that Nick Harley is someone that is, I knew he was good, but he's just so good at all of it. And when you ask me that question, I don't just think about the trivia player. I just think about a Schmoedown player, and that's like the whole package. And I think Nick Harley is the whole package. I think he gets it. He understands, like, he gets the entertainment side of it, and he takes notes very well. Little behind the scenes, that scene where he turned when he's dancing in the kitchen. Some people don't realize this yet still, but if you go back and you watch a little Easter egg for you guys, if you go back and you listen to the song that Nick Harley is listening to in the kitchen, it's the Appointments theme song. He's listening to the Appointments theme song. So he the character has been thinking about entrance songs with him and Ethan while his old partner is coming into the room. So, and Nick is just so good. But the first time we shot that scene, he played it very well. But in my opinion, I felt like he played it where, even though in the second one, he bites the apple and you kind of, oh, he's gonna go, but you still, there's that little bit of doubt, but not much, but a little bit. In the first take, there's no doubt. He was playing it straight up like, oh, I'm about to spit in your face. And it was great the way he played it, but I was like, dude, just switch it up a little bit and try to do, and he just nailed it on the second one. And his trivia is going good. And it's intimidating to walk in from being in the FCL to just playing a couple matches. And then, oh, by the way, your new team partner is Ethan Irwin, and your manager is now going to be Roxy, and Chandru's on your squad. And that's not easy for everybody to do. That it takes a performer and somebody who really wants it to get in there and do it. And I think Nick is someone who really impressed me. I'm trying to think like some of the other people that are just, Radis and Lomas, again, just the epitome of Schmoedown players. Adam Collins, what he did in his scene work, I thought was great. Marisol's scene work was fantastic. We all know Marisol's amazing, but those are the people. And I will say that and I tweeted this about a month ago. We do have somebody that I found through the audition process that I'm very excited about, and I think they're going to be. I think that if their trivia is as good as their character work, I think they're going to be a massive star. But I just have to. You don't know until that round one is over.
Okay, great. So we're down with round two. So we're going to have one more round of questions, and then we're going to wrap up for today. So first question for round three, call to action with Megan.
All right. Going back to the free for all, with the introduction of the wildcard slices into the actual matches, in addition to all the new slices we've gotten, will we see wild cards introduced in the free for all?
Yes.
Easy question.
100%. Yeah, there's some fun ones that they put in. There's some really fun ones that I think you guys are gonna get a kick out of.
Very good.
Great. Next question, Luke from Galaxy Geeks.
So we saw earlier when when Viviani was walking in, you saw him do an entrance. And we used to see a lot of entrances before the digital age. Could we see entrances back? I was watching the Miss Movie entrance the other day and I laughed my head off, and I was just curious if we could be seeing more of those in the future.
Yeah, like I had mentioned earlier with it was a little harder when you're renting a studio, right? Because when you're renting a studio, it's like you only have so much time before they kick out or they charge you more. And so the decision is, okay, if you have an entrance, what's the entrance idea? Sure, we can make that happen. Let's do it. And that's, I didn't necessarily really love that setup where I thought they shot it very well. And I think Thad made the best out of it but the way, if you see it at the studio itself, the one that we shot at, it's like, there's this little corridor where the competitors would be, then myself or whoever's announcing is right off to the side, and there's this curtain, and then they have to come in, they got to move to the side, they got to stand and pose in front of the camera, and then they got to cut across, and you can't get a really good, the old studios, you never really left them, but you kind of leave them for a second. I don't love that. So if we can eliminate that, and again, I don't know that, I just saw the new studio for the first time yesterday, and they're still working on it. So it just depends on how we're able to shoot it and get the entrances. So the answer is I would love to. I just don't know yet if it's possible.
Next question from Tim from The Insight.
Okay, so I have a quick question, especially with that announcement that was made on Patreon regarding the addition of a fourth major pay-per-view event this fall. And I'm kind of curious, other than just speculative talks aside, what made the decision to go ahead and make that major pay-per-view event in this fall happen?
I mean, it's what we were talking about before, more so with Patreon, right? We want to I mean, all three of us, myself and Terry Lynn and Thad, we're talking about it, and we all agreed that we needed to give the patrons more that they felt they were getting. So we made the decision, and Terry Lynn worked very hard to make sure that we could get it in the production budget to get the Star Wars division there. So that's why we did that. And then we were like, well, by just giving them Titans, that first half of it, is that completely worth it for them? And then we're not even giving them the fourth Titans anyway. So the decision was, all right, well, let's give them a fourth Titan, or first half of Titans early. But what that would mean is that we're losing the pay-per-view per month, one per month. And as I mentioned before with WCW, WWF, like, well, that's when you're growing out, you just build up the best pay-per-views and you build them up and you lead to them. So we were like, well, we have one in early year with Free for All, and then we have a summer event with Collision, and we have a winter event with Spectacular, but we were missing that fall event. So we're like, well, let's try to find the best date there to do like the fall brawl or whatever it is. I think that's a wrestling thing. So, but you know what I mean? Something like that. And that's kind of how it came to be.
Thank you.
Next question from Dagan from Let's Get Ready Network.
Yeah, so one of the teams that really impressed me recently is Janine and the debut of the database.
Yeah.
What are your general thoughts on this team and where you see them going this season? Do you think they have what it takes to potentially enter that team's title picture?
Oh yeah, they definitely have what it takes. I think that database, Eric is a he's another one of these guys who's a fan who's just very hungry and he wants to learn. He knows he's a little green as far as character and that type of stuff goes, but he's called the database for a reason. You know, he knows a lot, and he really knows a lot. So I just thought it made all the sense in the world. The machine and the database. I mean, come on, like that alone. Plus Janine is a beloved vet at this point. And I think having the two of them together playing with all these kind of new teams, I think they're kind of one of the new hot teams, and the fans really seem to respond to them, because I think what the database brings is that you feel like it's you playing. You can relate to him as where he's that guy that he's going to play along with everything, but he's still, you can tell he was at the cantina watching matches 4 months ago in the audience. You know, so I think that's what he brings. And then obviously Janine was that when she entered the league, but now she's like one of our biggest stars that we have, because there's no one more pure than Janine the Machine, you know. So to have those two playing with each other, I think it's just, and then with Kaiser's new attitude and the Dungeon's new attitude in general, I think that yeah, they can make a serious run.
Great. Next question is from Keith at This Week in the Schmoedown.
So Kristian, obviously this Friday is our second title match of the season, but do you have in your head a rough idea of how many title matches in each division will be happening this season?
I usually try, I mean, well, not Star Wars this year, but I usually try to do, at least in singles and teams, I try to do between 5 and 6 a year. And it's now with the season start, when it was January, it was sometimes we shoot for 6, but we definitely get 5. I think with the shortened kind of February till early December, we're aiming for around 5. So that was my point earlier with Shazam, was that if we would have not done this match, that you would only seen him 3, maybe 4 times. But with this plan, you and that's the other thing with these new teams, that even though they're not ready to get a shot at Shazam, like, or the titles in general in one shot in one match, you go back to the Patriots days and they can get a number 1 contender at 2-0 and then play for the titles at 3-0. So that certainly is something that we're hoping to do, because that will then let us do teams where Corruption, well, I mean, that's the other thing. You can get 6 this year, because if Corruption goes and beats Shazam, then Shazam is then set up for a rematch. So that would set up yet another title match that probably happens quicker, right? You could get 7 teams matches if Paul Oyama decides to cash in and do a teams title match. You could get an additional IG match. You can get additional wherever Paul Oyama, if he decides to cash in time, is able to add to that. But the goal, like singles, the next offense would probably be, because we just had Sam do it in March, so I would say probably June, and then after that, August. Then you hope to try to get one in October, and then you end the year in December, hopefully, depending on who's building up. So and then Inner Geekdom, kind of going back to how it used to be, anywhere between 3 and 4, maybe, but most likely 3 or 4. And then Star Wars, you probably get 2, maybe 3, but 2 probably. Now with the Patreon, you probably, I mean, Thomas Harper, I can say this, that we're looking for Thomas Harper to defend the title at Collision. That's what we can say.
Great. And the final question for today's press conference comes from Mike Shea at the Ultimate Schmoedown After Show.
So with the announcement that the Star Wars stuff is going to be Patreon only, I guess the question would be how that's going to affect the after shows. Is that something we're going to be able to cover, or is that something you want to keep behind the Patreon wall? And then will that also play into who we're able to book as guests for our shows going forward? That's
a good question. So I think, and again, this isn't official, because I want to make sure that I'm talking about this with both Terry Lynn and Thad and everybody over there. But my opinion on it is that you guys should be able to cover it as it comes in, and say, and just what I would ask is the same way if when I'm on Big Thing covering a show on Disney Plus that people have to pay for, right? I'm just saying, hey, I'm going to cover this. It's going to be a spoiler here. So if you didn't get a chance to watch the match, you don't care to get spoiled, well, then here you go. And that's totally fine. I would just, wait at least a day before you do it. You don't have to, but that's professional. That's just professional courtesy. Yeah, I would ask for. As far as guests go, same thing. I would say, look, we have a guest on the show, that because look, here we have, I don't know if it's booked yet, but my idea for the number one contender for Patreon would be, and patrons can tell me, I'm not sure if this went out or not, but the number one contender would be Andrew DiMolanta versus Gold Leader. And then the winner of that would play Thomas Harper for the championship at Collision. That's my overall goal. So in an example like that, and you guys knew that was coming up, and then after the match happened, I would hope that you would reach out to book one or not both of those guys, either leading up to the match or after the match, because then people who didn't get Patreon would hopefully, because knowing the kind of match those two are going to put on, you would say, oh shit, I missed that. I should probably go check that out. Oh man, that was a great interview by Ultimate Schmoedown show. And I missed the match. Maybe I should go check it out. So yeah, I think it'd be silly for us to have you guys not cover it and have guests from that division.
Perfect. And to add on to that, I know I forget who asked, but we can confirm that in the emails that we send out every week, we will be including Star Wars competitors once the season starts. So you will be seeing that on the emails we send out every week. Okay, great. Well, thank you everyone for joining today. I'm going to stop the recording.